The festivities continue on Sportswire Radio as we are celebrating all day here our 5-year anniversary of Sportswire Radio's debut. Our inception was January 25th, 2019, and here we are all these years later, whether it was through SoundCloud, through Skype calls, whether it was through Sportnarium.com, our old British radio station. We were on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, you name them all. We're here. We've gotten there. We've made it to 5 years, and I could not think of a better way than to continue the festivities by speaking with a man that made a big return in his own right, who's got a lot of history in this world of wrestling. And he returned last week at Resurrection Wrestling's Elevation show, and he wrestled an old foe who we heard from last week on the show. Now he's going to give us his side of the story, plus who knows what else. And it turns out he's even wrestled a couple of different people that have already been on Sportswire Radio and some big other names that I have no doubt we're going to bring up here and some. This man has won championship after championship. It remains to be seen what the future is of our guest. I'm going to find out all of it here and some. Our guest needs no further introduction, but because today is a special day in Sportswire Radio history, he has to get that introduction that everybody else has got, and especially many of his colleagues and many of his longtime nemesis who have gotten that introduction. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get to it here on our 5-year anniversary day. Let's give our guest that introduction that everybody else always gets. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, wrestling star. You've seen him in places like Knockout Wrestling and Resurrection Wrestling. We'll see if we can keep that rage in the cage. His name is Cameron Cage. My friend, how are you?
I've been doing pretty good. How are you been?
Ask me after the show when I tell you how my voice feels, because literally I think we've been actually keeping track. Our guest on Tuesday's show, Jake Carnage, Necro Daddy, Chris Levitt, whatever you want to call him, maybe one of the biggest, most controversial wrestling stars in the UK, was like, wow, you've done like 90 shows in 75 days. And I think I've done since then at least 3 and actually 4 counting a radio station a month. So that gives me to 94 shows in 77 days. So certainly I am definitely the I've been everywhere man, figuratively and literally around the world interviewing people. It's your lucky day because we are continuing the celebration of my 5-year anniversary since I started years ago, back on January the 25th, 2019, on a Friday afternoon. And it was here in the friendly confines of Sportswire Radio's home, where it was myself and my then co-host at the time, Robert G. Hines, and we did a show that was recorded on Skype, and it was like, we have an hour, and we're going to talk about all whatever else is in the world, and we spoke about mostly the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, and I was nervous. My palms were sweaty, but here we are. I'm not sweating. I'm not having any time clocks in my hands. I'm speaking with you, my friend, and we have a lot of comments, but we're not going to talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, we are going to talk about what happened with you nearly a week and a half ago, where you surprisingly returned at Resurrection Wrestling's Elevation against a man that was here last Thursday in your chair, a longtime nemesis of yours, the Machine, Dustin Alexander.
Well, I mean, me and Dustin have a lot of history.
Oh my God, you've had first blood matches, hardcore matches. I think you guys have put each other more through what he put Jimmy Controversy and Mac 10 through, no joke.
Yeah, pretty up there. We've been enemies, we've been partners, we've been all across the board. But I had I had a lot of birds in my ear telling me that
Yeah.
he was about to be doing an open challenge for that
He
hardcore
was,
title.
yes. Yes, he was.
So, and me being, in my opinion, the one who made hardcore at Resurrection, I felt like it would have been wrong if I didn't show up and at least try to take it.
Well, you certainly looked like you had a chance to take it. You had a chance to run it back. And I'm going to ask you about Dustin in a few minutes. I'm going to get to comments and say hello to everybody. But it looked like you had somebody, a familiar foe or a familiar group of foes that kind of turned the match upside down. And we never knew who would have won the match because of the Beast Academy, which later on became the brand new Resurrection Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion in the Wild Beast Adrian Prince and his friend, the Outlaw Gunnar Morgan, that came up and broke up what could have been. And how did that all make you feel?
Well, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think I had that match in the bag. I had just put Dustin through a table, which is something not very many people do on
Nope.
Resurrection.
Not at all. Not at all.
But the dude who ended my career, Adrian Prince, came out there, and this whole Beast Academy thing, it's still new to me because when my career was ended, he was with a whole different group of people. So part of me, I congratulate him for winning the Resurrection World Championship, but he only won that title because he had to have help to end my career, and I didn't make it to Retribution with Rage.
Which
And
you had history with for sure. There was
yeah,
no question that you had history with, and we'll sort of go back in time a little bit and talk about it. But how does that make you feel knowing that the man that ended your career, quote unquote, the man that ended your career, the Wild Beast Adrian Prince, is the brand new Resurrection Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion? I mean, Cameron Cage, that certainly has to make you want to feel like a rage against the machine, more or less.
well, yeah. At first, I was mad. I was, because the one thing I've learned from Adrian Prince throughout his whole career is everything that he's done, he's had help with doing.
Mm-hmm.
But him winning that Resurrection World title, he did on his own, and I have to give him that. He's one of the best. He by far one of the best performers on that show.
No question. I agree with you on that. I mean, pound for pound. I mean, we've had the Wild Beast here in the chat in the past, and there is no question that he is certainly somebody that, carries his own weight, and he's a legitimate championship contender. But I think he used you and Dustin to kind of goad another man that you have a lot of history with, the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady, a man you've battled with before when he was the then national champion.
Many
And
times.
yep, you have a lot of history with him, and you guys were kind of used as props. Do you feel that you and him were raised as used or as props because Adrian Prince, what he really wanted was a crack at the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady's world championship, and you guys were basically collision, more or less.
I can see where you're coming from with that, because long time ago, in a galaxy far away, me and Ronnie were a group. We were the Chaos Society.
Yep.
And he knew that getting to me and Dustin would make this new version of Ronnie want to come save us, because I might have had my problems with him in the past because he's egotistical. He likes to take everything for himself when it comes to wrestling. But I have noticed he has tried to change. He's been trying to do it
He came out
right
and
way.
saved you guys. No, listen, Ronnie Brady these days is not the Ronnie Brady that you were feuding with. I mean, this is a different Ronnie Brady. Maybe the Wild Beast Adrian Prince and the Outlaw Gunnar Morgan, they kind of basically capitalized on that. They capitalized on a more human element, a more, I guess you might maybe even want to say, vulnerable Ronnie Brady. Is that fair for me to state?
I mean, yeah, I that would make the most sense on Adrian Prince's part, because me and Ronnie Brady's history go back to the very first episode of Resurrection. Me and Ronnie was my first match in Resurrection history, and
Almost 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Almost 2 years ago, and me and Ronnie grew a bond after that. That's what made me decide to join the Chaos Society. That's what started the whole thing over the hardcore title with me and him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Prince saw an opening, and in my opinion, he would have been stupid if he didn't take it.
So if you were in the same position, you probably would have did the same thing because look, it was the world title, and you know what? He had a gamble because we knew that if the West Memphis Kid Ronnie Brady had retained that championship over the Wild Beast Adrian Prince, as long as Ronnie Brady was the champion, Wild Beast Adrian Prince could never get another title shot. So that was a gamble that paid off in the favor of the Wild Beast Adrian Prince. No.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a very, very dangerous gamble that he played, but it paid off in the best way possible. If I was in his shoes, yes, I would have done the same exact thing. Because that Resurrection World title is the one title on Resurrection that's eluded me my whole career. It's the only title that I didn't win, and he's up there too. That was one of the only titles he hasn't won, if I'm thinking correctly. But
Obviously, you've been a hardcore champion. You've been a national champion, and unfortunately, you weren't able to get the world championship. And Adrian Prince, a man that put you out of action, holds that championship. I mean, how do you think that the landscape of Resurrection Wrestling has changed now?
The landscape since I've left has changed a lot. There's been new faces like Roddy Alpha.
Roddy Alpha, I think a lot of people are really excited about. Yep.
He's been really good. I've been keeping an eye on him, but I feel the landscape there is a completely different ball game from that 1 week that I went back. Everyone is on a different level. Everyone is focused more. Everybody wants to take somebody else's spot because everyone wants to be at the top. And Adrian Prince was just the smarter one and took his chance. And
no question about that. Absolutely. I mean, I would even say that, you would have probably did the same thing. Anybody else would have in the spirit of competition. Let me say hello to people because a lot of people want to talk to you. A lot of people are fired up because right now on Sportswire, it's kind of a good time to be on Sportswire because my last 3 shows, really my last 4 actually starting this week with Van Hansen. Van Hansen, Mr. V to the H, got a massive YouTube following, and he was certainly the topic of Monday's shows here, and he was talking about his own matchup coming with Brandon Castelli, February the 24th, the Fight for a Cure, really, really great cause. And we had, as I mentioned, Jay Carnage, Necro Daddy, Chris Levitt, which has been the talk of the UK wrestling world. Yesterday, we had on the Tribal Cheese Logan. It was Tribal Cheese Day on Sportswire Radio. Then today, we inducted James Barris, the owner and promoter of Cutlery Championship Wrestling, as our 24th member in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So you're coming off a really great time on the platform. And Jacoby was here Sunday. So it's really been, you even go 5 shows in a row. It's really been some of the better shows I think we've had on Sportswire, and to tell you the truth, in months. So it's really a great time to be on the platform. Good evening, Tom and Cameron from Jules. Thank you, everybody. Want to say hello to my very good buddy, the Bitcoin billionaire, Mr. Chase Wakefield. Chase is going to be inducted into our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame very, very soon. How you doing there, Chase? Great to be with you. Happy 5 years. Thank you so much thank you for all of your support over the years. Thank you everybody that's been with me on the days of SoundCloud.com, which is still up on my page, whether you've been supporting me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Our brand new website, sportswireradio.org, an internet radio station where for free of charge, if you have a podcast out there, I allow you to basically play your content free of charge, allow you to be on a radio station, and we play DJs, we have music, and thank you to all of my supporters. We've had probably, I think, the most traction Sportswire's had the last really 3 or 4 weeks than I've had in frankly about 2 years. So thank you so much to everybody supporting the platform. Thank you for that, Mr. Wakefield. Thank you, Jules, for that. Cameron Cage, the true hardcore king. I said what I said. I'm going to come back to Dustin Alexander, though, about that. He's hot. Gulf Coast gotcha. Thank you, Gulf Coast. I think you're talking about Cameron. Not talking about me, because this is not really hot, but maybe they're talking about you. Want to say hello to Ethan Sorensen. Thank you so much for your support. Yes, hello to Cameron. My guest Sunday, and by the way, Jacoby, what a breath of fresh air it was to have Jacoby on the show. Jacoby, who returned after a 13-month absence at Fallout, and this is a guy that definitely I hope to have more on Sportswire Radio, and Jacoby really enjoyed his interview with us. I hope to have him on more times, and the boy is so damn good, he forced me into temporary retirement. Well, I mean, you're back, though.
Long time.
Ethan's got a question, but I'm going to come back to it because we'll talk about your career retrospective in a few minutes. Wish you would wrestle. Gulf Coast gotcha, which is that they would wrestle you. So I guess that might be something there. My friend, he's not on the market, if I'm not mistaken. No comment. Somebody loves those comments though for you. Wink, wink. What did I miss here? Well, you haven't missed much. All
Hey,
we've missed here so far, we've just been talking about our very good friend, Mr. Cameron Cage, who made I guess, what's that?
that's rage.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to get to him. Gonna get to him. What I was gonna say, Mr. Rage, what you just missed is that we've had Cameron Cage on talking about his last match against the Machine, Dustin Alexander, and also about the fact that his career was ended by the Wild Beast Adrian Prince, who was our brand new World Heavyweight Champion in Resurrection Wrestling, and also want to say hello to Big Tex, the big man of DBW. And you're going to be back on soon because we know that DBW is starting up here, I think, in sometime in the middle of March. And you're going to have something to say about that. I want to give a big plug, actually, to somebody here real quick that is with us here on the platform that we recreated this for us, our little new logo to celebrate our 5 years. Mr. Baltimore, who's got a podcast, by the way. It's called the Be More Talkative Podcast. And Cameron, if you're looking to do more podcasts, this guy's a big wrestling fan. He definitely knows his stuff. He loves the sport. And the host of the #1 global radio station, the man with the marvelous mutton chops, not quite sure about that, top tier with the 5-year career. And congratulations. Thank you so much. And that's his logo that this man designed for us. Thank you so much. We're going to see TBK talking Royal Rumble preview tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Be there or be square. And King Rage, I'm going to come back to King Rage in a few minutes. But, for you, obviously, Dustin Alexander is a man that you have a lot of history with. And I was wondering, for you, Cameron Cage, when you see Dustin Alexander go up there and square off and defeat the likes of, let's say, the Nature Boy Gage Flair and Hollywood Titan, who, by the way, I'm going to ask you a question on him as well because he's the hardcore king of Sportswire Radio. You might be the hardcore guy. You want to certainly talk about those things. And also, Dustin Alexander, a man you've squared off with many times, defeated a guy who's been on here not once but twice and is coming back possibly tomorrow to Sportswire Radio live, apparently works for a company that's the 7th biggest wrestling promotion in the entire world. I said it straight, called GTS, and his name is Sergeant Jimmy Controversy. Dustin Alexander, a man that you have certainly raged off with and were in a cage with, pretty much, pun intended, with many, many times over the years. He has a pinfall victory over him. So I'm wondering, what have you thought about Dustin Alexander, the Machine, his transformation, where in these last several months since your wars with him, he's had some really big wins in the wrestling world?
Man, I'm extremely proud of him. Dustin was one of the guys who I started wrestling with. And to see all this stuff happening to him, all the big names he's gotten in the ring with and beaten, it brings a smile to my face because there for a long time, he was always the one who would doubt himself. He wouldn't think he's very good. And now here he is getting put in matches with the biggest names in the area and even out of the area with Jimmy Controversy. He's definitely...
The man's pinned Jimmy Controversy. Take a step back.
Yeah.
You were squaring off with him on a trampoline, and fast forward to not even 2 years later, Dustin Alexander defeats Jimmy Controversy, pins him, and on top of the other guy in the match, oh, by the way, was only in the Carnage Cup, and his name is Mac 10. I mean, that's some pretty big company there. I mean, that's a really, really big deal. Think about how far in a short amount of time he's come.
Oh, he's definitely come a long, long way from being on a trampoline and not ever thinking that he wanted to be in a real ring to now, in my opinion, the by far best wrestler on Resurrection's roster. He proves every single time he's in that ring, he's in there to do everything. He will do whatever he needs to. He's a team player, and he's doing what not a lot of people on Resurrection can say, and he's bringing that hardcore title back to life.
And you know what? Listen, and think about this. Oh, in between that, he just squared off with and nearly with an inch defeated what went on to become the brand new Tennessee Backyard Wrestling heavyweight champion of the world, Russell Cooper. Oh, and by the way, TBW, get this, ladies and gentlemen, TBW was mentioned on Barstool Sports a couple of days ago. Think about this. TBW was mentioned on Barstool Sports, and their world heavyweight champion is Russell Cooper, and Dustin Alexander came within an inch of defeating him. That shows you on the big stage what Dustin Alexander has done. Name me a wrestler in a short amount of time. Name me a wrestler. Think about this right now. Big Tex was with us, and he nearly defeated Mr. Judgment, so he's up there in the discussion as well. But name me a wrestler within not even 2 years that on the biggest stage has defeated the likes of, Hollywood Atomic Titan, right? Big name, right? Company of 6,500 plus subscribers on YouTube. The Nature Boy Gage Flair. Mr. Woo! Mr. Wooman. Everybody does the woo. Some even call him the real Ric Flair right now. And oh, by the way, he's defeated some guy named Sergeant Jimmy Controversy. Let me put it back to you. Sergeant Jimmy Controversy. So that shows you who he's defeated. And oh, by the way, like I said, came within an inch of defeating Russell Cooper.
Yeah, I was watching I was watching season finale live, and
what a match that was. What a match.
I was very excited to see Dustin even on the show, much less almost defeating the man who ends up being the world champion. That is a huge deal for someone who has never really been even put in a chance for a world championship.
But it just shows you sometimes you don't have to be the world champion to create yourself that buzz, to create yourself that momentum. If you go out there and do the work, if you go out, and the old adage was, if you put your head down, you go out there and keep grinding and keep grinding and keep grinding, you can get yourself those opportunities. And the machine, Dustin Alexander, I have a lot of questions, and I'm going to get to people in a second. But I want to ask you something, and I have a feeling that you're going to answer it in a different way. But when you see the success, though, on a big stage like the machine, Dustin Alexander, and your career right now, as we know, has been put to a halt, do you have any jealousy? Do you have anything or any animosity at all, let's say, toward your longtime nemesis, Dustin Alexander, where he's had the success and you say, you know what, maybe that could have been me?
At the start, yes, there was a lot of jealousy. I was very jealous because as soon as I lost my career, it seems like everything was starting to go up for everyone on Resurrection, mostly for Dustin. But as real life, Dustin's been my best friend for 5 years. As soon as the jealousy started slowing down, I'm nothing but happy for him. I've been paying more attention to his career than I have to a lot of stuff in professional wrestling. He has been one of my main priorities to make sure I'm supporting. For a long time, there was a lot of jealousy because he got the shot at the hardcore title that I didn't get again. But he's doing stuff that I don't think I could have done with it, and he's bringing it back to life.
Well, he definitely is, and I wanted to play this here on the screen in case people have not known this, but actually a few days ago when Jacoby was on the show, we declared it starting on February the 1st that on all Sportswire radio platforms, it will be Resurrection Wrestling Month, and we have a slew of Resurrection Wrestling guests coming on to the platform here to promote February the 17th upcoming show Lockdown, where, oh, by the way, you're probably going to see Dustin Alexander. You're probably going to see the Wild Beast Adrian Prince. You're going to definitely see King Rage versus Drake Goldrake, I'm going to ask you about Rage for sure in a little while. And oh, by the way, you're going to see some big names, some real big names, like, oh, by the way, Mac 10 once again. I hear from a birdie that Mikey Anarchy is going to be here because it was announced here on Sportswire Radio, and once again back, Sergeant Jimmy Controversy, and another participant in a four-way match in a cage of hell in a lockdown match that's going to be like no other you ever seen before. You're going to get one match. You're going to get Mikey Anarchy. You're going to get Sergeant Jimmy Controversy and Mac 10. Three of the biggest hardcore wrestlers in this sport are going to be there February the 17th, upcoming show for Resurrection Wrestling. It's called Lockdown. You can find out more information there in those links, which we're going to plug in a few minutes. And I want everybody to know one more time, it is Resurrection Wrestling Month on Sportswire Radio starting next Thursday. So you're going to have a whole slew of things related to Resurrection Wrestling on all Sportswire Radio platforms here. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. So if you hear me for the first time, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. And if you want to follow us, again, we're on Facebook at Sportswire Radio or at Twitch at Sportswire Radio. And if you're joining us for the first time on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Sportswire Radio 6579. I'm 7 subscribers away from 500. So if you're out there tonight, I want you to hit that sub button. I want you to tell your friends, and I want to hit 500 subscribers on my 5-year anniversary today. So if you support Sportswire Radio, you support what we do for this community, you support what we do for wrestling companies like Resurrection Wrestling and people like Cameron Cage and Dustin Alexander and Jacoby and Steven Silvestri and everybody else in a bag of chips, you subscribe to our page and you tell your friends to do the same. But let me get to a lot of comments here because a lot of people want to talk to you, Cameron Cage. And I'm going to pull off the banner here for a second because we want to bring up the big screen here. Let's go here. I got a, let's see. No, I don't know where he said that. Oh, my chops are awesome. Thank you, Jacoby. I appreciate that very much, but that's certainly your opinion. I can window shop though, right? That's a funny one. I only speak the truth. I can't believe it's been 5 years. I can't wait for what the future podcasts have in store. It'll be an amazing time. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I have been one of the few people that's lucky. I started out during the days of Skype. I was recording on Skype. Now people would say, what is Skype? But I started doing this 5 years ago on a Skype call, and I've been on worldwide radio in the UK. I'm here with you, and look at everything else in between, and thank you for your kind words. Just saying, don't bet all your cards on him. Fair enough. I agree with both that statement. Dustin Alexander can hold that hardcore title, but that belt belongs to Cameron Cage. Now, I'm going to get to somebody else who's hardcore in a minute. I'm going to definitely do that. Preach. Thank you, TBK. I have a question. Revenge Rumble entrant. Now, we have a Rumble coming up on February the 17th, and that's a segue because you won the last Rumble. Now, I know you've said your career's over. You made a surprise comeback against Alexander. It seems to me that you've said still so far that you're not an active in-ring competitor, but Rumbles, we always say never, and you always see surprises in a Rumble. Now, I know you're not going to tell us if you're going to be at the Rumble 3 weeks from Saturday, but has that crossed your mind?
It definitely has, because I did win the last Revenge Rumble at the #1 entrant. So I feel like if I did come back and got in that Rumble again, I have the most odds on winning it again. But I mean, the never say never is the biggest thing in wrestling.
Absolutely, all the time. Listen, I mean, Hulk Hogan talked about the other day that, I might have one more match in him. I mean, Ric Flair came back last year and wrestled. I mean, we see this far too often that you say you're done and you come back. So, you can't say you're permanently done.
I mean, I'm still 20 years old. I still have plenty of time to, if I wanted to return to Resurrection right now, I feel like I could. But it's not in the cards for a full-time return. But who knows? I could come back and win the Rumble and take back that world title that I never got my shot for.
I was speaking with somebody that's in the company, and I don't want to say who the name was, but you definitely respect this name. And they said to me that for somebody your age, you have a lot of war stories. Do you feel like for your age that you do have a lot of war stories and that you have done a lot of different things that, frankly, somebody your age hasn't done in the wrestling world? Is that a fair statement for that person to have made?
Yeah, I feel like it is, personally, because ever since I started, I was one of the only people who was willing to do the hardcore stuff. And most people at a young age think hardcore is more chairs and tables and stuff like that, but it's a lot more.
I think it's evolved so much since those days. I think you see now, I mean, listen, we mentioned Controversy, right? I just watched Controversy and Hardcore wrestle a match at the TF Cruz North Haven Massacre. And if you want to cover your ears when I say this, you can for the audience. Jimmy Controversy put syringes up Hardcore's lips. Syringes. Yep, that's right, syringes. It's not like what it used to be. It's not tables, ladders, and chairs like it was with the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian. No, what I've seen in the last 3 months in covering hardcore and deathmatch wrestling on Sportswire Radio, that stuff is almost like PG or even rated G.
Yep, and now it's more light tubes, barbed
Yep,
wire.
it's light tubes. It's you even see barbed wire. You see fans. You see TVs. I've seen refrigerators. I've seen all types of stuff. I've seen, almost like how can I put it, thumbtacks onto tables. I've seen just so many different things that you would not have even seen 10 years ago.
It's evolving very quickly, very quickly. Hardcore at this day and age is it's not for everybody. It's
No,
not.
absolutely not. And for people to watch it, I mean, I speak with people, wrestlers have asked me who watch the platform and have come on the show. They're like, wow, do you want to cover your ears, your eyes, and your swim, when you hear these things? I'm like, no, because I've watched so much of it the last few months that I get used to it. But, it really is like, it's not just what you maybe did where people go out there and use an object or two. No, it's so much more than that. It's almost a light tube is almost like nothing now. If you mention the light tube, I'm gonna go watch a match after we're off the air with the 3 participants, and I won't say the names, but they were on the platform recently, and I guarantee you that match is people, half the people in this chat would almost be like, what did I just watch? But for me and for you, it's almost become normal.
It has become normal. It's really become normal after you start doing it, after you start having the hardcore matches and landing on thumbtacks and stuff like that. It's not fun. It's not fun for sure.
How did you get used to it, though? I mean, listen, it's a really, I asked Hardcore this question. Hardcore obviously just beat Jimmy Controversy a couple weeks ago, and I'd asked him that same question before their match, and I'm like, Hardcore, I've seen you watch your matches against Madman Pondo. I've seen you against all these different participants, and you put your body through so much. And I'm like, well, do you ever get numb to the pain? Do you get numb to seeing yourself with blood all over your face and all these different things? Syringes get put on your head, or they basically put almost like it looked like haystacks through Jimmy Controversy's head. I mean, I asked him these questions. Do you almost kind of want to almost faint or just become anything that people would say, oh, I can't look? And he says, no, he loves it. I had Mikey Anarchy on, right? Mikey Anarchy is going to be here February the 17th at Lockdown against Controversy and Mac 10. And he just wrestled a match at the same show that they were on against Braxton. He actually, Mikey Anarchy, showed us his back. His back, you could have played connect the dots with it. So, guys who are in hardcore deathmatch wrestling, it's almost like, how can I outprove the other that I'm more hardcore and I put my body through more or less?
It's definitely not. It's not easy to get used to at first, but different people can tolerate different amounts of things. And I, for one, have been from the start. I might have a little problem. I kind of enjoyed it when I saw blood coming off of me.
Yeah.
But I've done hardcore matches with that kid Jacoby. His last match was with me, and it was for the KOW Hardcore Championship.
Yes, that was before his return to the ring on Resurrection's Fallout show. Correct.
And he was going by Devin Mayfield at the time.
Yes, I think he briefly spoke about that on the show on Sunday. Yes.
And that match was probably one of his most hardcore matches that he's ever done. And he wanted to be a hardcore guy for a long time, but with his age back then, it was kind of a little iffy because I don't think anybody wants a younger person to be exposed to that kind of thing, especially doing
it. You were exposed to it. I mean, you're still relatively a young wrestler. So why you? And why did you want to be the guy that was the hardcore man? I mean, in a lot of ways, you're seeing Dustin Alexander. I go back to it, kind of usurped your success. You should be in those shoes. You were the man taking all that punishment, all that pain, and you're the man that said, you know what? I can't handle it. I'm stepping aside. When these other guys, I mean, listen, hardcore is almost twice your age, and he's almost like saying, I got a whole another 10, 15 years ahead. We see Madman Pondo. He's still going out there. I mean, PCO's kind of carried the flag in Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling. I mean, he was in another life wrestling. Bret the Hitman Hart is kind of like stealing his jacket, quote unquote. He stole Bret Hart's jacket. He's reinvented himself, and he's kind of like the mainstream hardcore guy. And Tommy Dreamer, this Jimmy Controversy, wrestled him a year and a half ago, and he's still wrestling like 50 to 100 independent shows a year. So if those guys are still doing it, they're way older than you. You don't
Yeah.
feel like, hey, I should be out there too?
Oh, I definitely feel like I should still be out there. I
Yeah.
definitely feel like I have a lot more to prove in the hardcore world, especially with all these guys coming around talking about it's their game and all that. Like Titan saying he's the hardcore king. I
Yeah.
at this point, I have a lot more to prove, and I want all these people who say that they're all this and that to come prove it to me. At
What do
this
you
point,
think, though, about the Atomic Titan, Hollywood Titan? He's the hardcore king. Respect our hardcore king. He's the TBW hardcore champion. He's the only Grand Slam champion in TBW history. And, he's saying that, he wants the likes of Jimmy Controversy. No problem, Dustin Alexander. He almost scoffed at the fact he would have a match at Dustin Alexander. He wants the likes of Mikey Anarchy. He wants the likes of Mac 10. He wants the likes of Hardcore. He seems to be very confident, and for him, he's the new kid on the block. He's the hardcore guy, and he's our hardcore king of Sportswire Radio. What do you think about that? How the Atomic Titan has morphed into this Hollywood Titan who's a hardcore king and who says that, listen, Jimmy Controversy, he's nothing. He's the guy in town. Hardcore, forget about it. Even though his name is Hardcore, right? But forget about him. Mikey Anarchy, he's nothing. Mac 10, he's seen him in a locker room. He can handle him. And certainly Dustin Alexander, Hollywood Titan, scoffed at him. What do you think of all that?
well, I certainly do have respect for the fact that he is the only Grand Slam champion in TBW.
I agree.
As soon as I heard that, it's hard not to respect that because that takes a lot of dedication.
Sure.
But I can't. The thing that I don't respect about Titan is he calls himself the hardcore king, and this run that he's having right now, it's been all right. He's been doing some stuff that
Some people say, though, he's only beat the likes of some guy, Jacob Young, who was on here. And, we liked him, but, certainly he wouldn't be ready for prime time. The Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, I don't know how many people were really impressed with him. But, when it comes to the likes of a hardcore god, Omen Black, or, like I said, Sergeant Controversy, who should be back here tomorrow. And, Mac 10's been here a couple times. You shared a locker room with Mac 10 and, Mikey Anarchy and these other guys like Obey. And Obey, to remind you, actually pulled a gun out live on Sportswire Radio. I mean, these guys are like the renowned hardcore deathmatch international superstars. And, Hollywood Titan, as much as he's our hardcore king of Sportswire Radio, who did he really beat? It's almost like, when Mike Tyson was the heavyweight champion in the 1980s, right? Who did he really beat? But then when he started to face people like the likes of Lennox Lewis or Evander Holyfield, he had to resort to tactics that, really didn't put him in the best light. So, I mean, what do you say to all that?
Well, I do understand that he wants to make everybody think that he's the hardcore king, but just as your point, Dustin Alexander right now has more leeway to call himself the hardcore king than anyone in Tennessee, because Titan has beaten a few people on TBW, but he's also lost as this hardcore king.
He lost to Russell Cooper. Russell Cooper beat him. And Russell Cooper, maybe some would say, was more impressive in that match than, let's say, what happened with Dustin Alexander, because Dustin was within an inch, and we saw that mutual respect. And Hollywood Titan's run, and we don't even know where Hollywood Titan kind of falls into this whole TBW situation because of what happened with now Commissioner Beast and certainly the Prophet J-Lo. But that's not about you. I have so many people that want to talk to you. I have like 100 comments. I think people are fired up right now because they've watched the last like 4 or 5 shows on Sportswire, and it's like a whole new audience has come in here. So let's bring them all in here. He pinned me one time, exhilarating. You might want to tell us who this is because I'm kind of curious who this might be. Anybody we know or anybody I'm missing?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, well, fair enough. This person who I know, Neff, how you doing, Neff? We know Neff. Yep, another former champion of Resurrection. Certainly that. Road tripping over Cam, Gulf Coast Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Tell us who you are. I'd love to know. We get the emojis there. Wish I was close enough to trip over him. Any other clue? I don't know.
No, I have no clue.
Okay. Yes, Resurrection Month. Yes, it's Resurrection Month coming up in February, and technically, I would suppose you might be a part of that. That's why I put the banner up. So that is for everybody to see. So starting in February, it'll be Resurrection Wrestling Month. We have a slew of Resurrection stars coming on. D'Angelo LaFlame is going to be here right after lockdown. We know we're going
Awesome.
to have, yeah, we're going to have a number of different guys. I think Jacoby's going to be here before the show. We have Steven Silvestri will be back, a number of different people. So let's take this off so I can see your mugshot. Obviously, people want to say hello to you. Let's do that. Jacoby, okay. How do I get a hardcore match with Mr. Cage? Well, you told us you're retired.
Now I'm not an active wrestler right now, so
Okay. Resurrection Wrestling, you deserve this, and hope you get a chance. Well, you know what? Well, we'd like to, but unfortunately, he's not here. I've got a rear naked choke with his name on it. Any other clue with that?
no, not really. But...
Okay. And for King, I'm going to get to King Rage. Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to get to you in a few minutes. You got to hang on tight because a lot of people, I am so behind in comments because people were really fired up right now. This Rumble isn't on the 17th, but later this year. Okay, thank you very much for clarification. Okay, fair enough here. Yeah, think about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Tom said his career is over and he came back for a match with Kevin Owens. Anything can happen in the Rumble for Cameron Cage. Yeah, okay. But hopefully, though, you don't have to wait 18 years to decide you're going to come back in the ring.
Yep. Yeah.
So, at that point, I don't know if you'd want to come back by that time. You'll be basically 40 and probably have a family and kids. And, you'd probably say, I don't know. Pretty much. And by the way, I want to say hello to the boogeyman of the Midwest. He's the hardcore god, Mr. Omen Black himself, who successfully defended his IMF Hardcore Championship. And apparently now he wants matches overseas in the UK. But he's come back here stateside to basically comment. Omen's going to be back in action February the 17th for the IMF's latest show. We're going to have coverage for it right before the show. You're going to have a slew of stars. You might want to tune into that one. Pretty much described every bit of my matches. The hardcore guys here. And by the way, Omen is the 7th member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And Omen, it's also his show, by the way. So how you doing, Omen? Good to see you once again. Brutal stuff could never be me. So Jacoby's confirmed that he's not going back to hardcore wrestling. No matter how much pain that these wrestlers go through, they will always love it, especially if it's their passion. I have a lot of respect for them. So do I. I don't like when people call them garbage wrestlers or they don't do anything in the ring because I can tell you, getting to know the hardcore wrestlers, whether it's Omen Black or whether it is Hollywood Titan, but certainly Mr. Controversy, Mr. Mac 10, certainly Mikey Anarchy, Obey, what these guys do to put their bodies through to make the fans smile and have a good time and be successful and continue to achieve their goals and dreams, you got to give it up to them. They're all awesome. And thanks, Taylor. I know your comment was specifically towards me. Not fair. No, probably I definitely wanted to be. I'm just a wrestler. Okay, that's fine. Want to say hello to Mr. Tibbs himself. Mr. Tibbs, our general manager and co-owner of Resurrection Wrestling. I was having a conversation with Mr. Tibbs about something that certainly sparked my interest, but I'll say hello with that. That's right. I've been pinned down by Cameron Cage 3 times. Is that right? Have you defeated him 3 times?
I think so. Yeah, 3 times. 2 on KOW and the once on Resurrection.
Okay. Mr. Tibbs says we have breaking news. I'd love to know what the breaking news is, but let me get through my comments because I got a lot of people that I'm trying to get through. I like this guy, Cam. We both don't like Titan. Yeah, Omen Black doesn't like Titan.
At least we can agree on something.
Well, I don't understand why that people don't like him. He comes on here and he tells people to respect him, but he's the one that he gets people to come out and they want to talk to him. They want to hear him. I just find it fascinating that people don't like Hollywood Titan, but when he comes on to Sportswire, he's a lightning rod almost. He's kind of like the Kardashian of Sportswire. If you mention his name, all of a sudden everybody in the woodworks comes out. But here nor there. Actually, I know Cameron. I'm just messing around. He's dating his girlfriend's mom.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting on Sportswire. I don't know if I've had that's a first on Sportswire. I guess that's really breaking the fourth wall. Okay, well, thank you, Gulf Coast. I hope that you tune in still. Los last rivals are going to be rivals, but respect is always respect. Thank you, Neff, for the kind words. I appreciate that very much, and glad that you're here with us. Atomic Titan has nothing on Cameron Cage. Period. Well, okay. You know what? Cameron's here. I'm giving him his opportunity, but I got news for you. Got some big news, Resurrection related. Fate or Fortune at Growlers Bar and Grill, Memphis, Tennessee, March 17th on Patty's Day. I mean, what better way to have your green, have a Guinness or 2, maybe have some corned beef and cabbage with some boiled potatoes, and watch Resurrection Pro Wrestling's March show coming up, Fate or Fortune, and we're going to, talk about a lot of that on Sportswire Radio over these next several weeks. You got Lockdown on the 17th, which, by the way, you can watch on TikTok. If you're like me in New York, you can watch the show on TikTok at Resurrection Wrestling. If you want to go out and find out more information on supporting Resurrection Wrestling, Instagram, Resurrection Pro Wrestling. YouTube as well at Resurrection Wrestling. Also, if you want to check out Resurrection Wrestling on Patreon now, patreon.com/Resurrection Pro Wrestling. Support them. I was the first person to join the Patreon, so join me in supporting Resurrection Wrestling. Also, redbubble.com/people/Resurrection Pro. If you want to buy some Resurrection merchandise, that's where you go and support the cause, support the movement. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. We are here with Mr. Cameron Cage. These wrestlers put their bodies and lives on the line to make sure they get the absolute best crowd reaction. If they get injured, they will always return. They will certainly try. Atomic never beat me and never will. But they've never squared off, though, in a ring.
He's never beat me either, but we've never fought either.
What are you saying? Would you come out of retirement to wrestle Titan?
Oh, I would definitely come out of retirement to prove Titan wrong.
So you're comfortable in that match, though? You're comfortable? You're confident?
I mean, if the opportunity presented itself, I'd come out of retirement and face Omen.
Well, he's in Iowa. I mean, I don't know how far it is to Iowa, but he's a part of the IMF, and you're a big guy. He's a big guy. He's really big. You can follow him on Facebook at Omen Black. He's on Instagram. He's on TikTok. He's on all these different platforms, and he's really, in fact, he's so big that our guest yesterday, the Tribal Cheese Logan, a man who was in the military in the UK, who was a mixed martial arts fighter, even looked at him and he said, wow, Tom, I didn't realize Omen was that big. Why didn't you tell me he was that big? I was like, well, wanted to surprise you, but he's really big, Omen Black. I mean, he's really big. People thought it was funny. The only hardcore thing about Titan is his ability to speak full sentences without that tight-ass turtleneck on without passing out. You like the turtleneck or what? You don't like it? Like it? What do you think?
I've got mixed emotions on the turtleneck. I feel like it looks good, just not on Titan.
Okay. I thought he was going for the 60s Beatles look. I thought that Ringo and Paul and John and George, they might have liked it, but that was 50 years ago. And most of, I think only Paul and Ringo are alive. So what else? What do I know? Even if it's a boo or any kind of chant towards the wrestlers, they love it all. Yes, and that has been confirmed by many wrestlers that come on here. She likes the TBK comment. Taylor, wrestling is their blood and will always, and superstars will always return with the best crowd reaction. I got tons of comments here. Keep them coming. If you really want to prove yourself in the hardcore scene, do something that Titan won't do and step in the ring with me.
Hey, man, if you get the chance, I will. I'm always down.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, some of my comments are out of context because I commented them when you all were speaking. No, don't worry about it. I'm behind on comments, so trust me, that's a good thing. Send your fate or fortune. And by the way, I'd like to say hello personally to the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady, a man who's no longer without that Resurrection World Heavyweight Championship. And something tells me that I'm going to see the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady, right before the 17th. And he says Cam is the real deal, unlike Titan. Cam is hardcore.
If anyone on Resurrection would know, it would be Ronnie Brady, because me and him have had some battles too.
What did those battles, what did they do for you in your career going through those battles with Ronnie Brady?
Well, Ronnie Brady, honestly, it gave me a lot more experience, and it gave me the chance to really let out a lot, because me and him, when Chaos Society ended, I was trying to do what was best for the group, and he didn't like it. And so he kicked me out, completely killing the Chaos Society. And we ended up having a steel cage dog collar match. And it's definitely true what they say, that them matches are brutal.
Oh, for sure. Dog collar matches. I've heard guys talk about that here that have been in those. Those matches are, certainly not the Grim Reaper Joe Anderson Atomic Titan match.
Oh, no, not at all.
I don't want to say what wrestler told me that. No, I love Titan. We love Titan on Sportswire. but one wrestler specifically told me they'll know who they are. They said, I watched that match with Titan and Anderson, and did you think that match was contrived? And I'm like, no comment. I'm pleading the fifth.
Fifth real quick.
So Ronnie Brady, what did he mean in the locker room? I've heard guys talk about Ronnie and his experience and how he's made people better in ways that you wouldn't see. How did he make you better as a wrestler, in Ronnie Brady?
How did he make me better? Me
How did he make you
personally,
better? Yeah.
the way that he brought out a part of me that I didn't know was inside. Just the pure hatred that I had for him for so long. It brought out a new level of Cameron Cage that I didn't think even existed. He honestly, if it wasn't for my matches with Ronnie Brady from the start to the end, I probably wouldn't have been the wrestler I was to win the Revenge Rumble at number 1. He helped me a lot more than a lot of people think.
What did it mean to you to win the Revenge Rumble last year? What did that mean for your career?
That meant the world. Because before the Revenge Rumble, I was on a downward spiral. I had just lost my hardcore title to Ronnie Brady. I was losing nonstop repeatedly. And going into that Rumble, the only thing I could think was, if I lose this, I'm not going to get another shot. So I had to power through, even with all the other names. There was Atomic Titan, there was Vinny Vince, there was, who was that? I don't even remember his name. But
it doesn't matter because you won the Rumble, so it
Yeah.
could be any name in the book. But when you won, though, did that for you give you confidence that you may not have had at that point? That you kind of, not to say that you lacked, maybe, how can I put it? You lacked kind of that maybe you had something inside you, but you doubted your ability at that point. Did that kind of reestablish your career or give you kind of a shot in the arm, more or less, if that's a better term?
Who you hit the nail right on the head right there. I was losing a lot of confidence before the Rumble. I
Why?
was with my repeated losing. I was losing to almost everyone I got in the ring with up until that point, and knowing that after the Rumble, knowing that I was able to do something that no one else on the show has been able to do. Stayed the entire gauntlet in that Rumble, and was able to pull out the win. Like not even in Resurrection, just not a lot of people in general have been able to do. It boosted my confidence to a level it's never been, and I was fully ready for a match with Rage to finally take the Resurrection title from him when he was holding it hostage for so long.
What made Rage probably where in 2023 that was your signature feud? Why were you in Rage? And we even saw it with a man that's been a long-time staple on Sportswire Radio over the year that you actually lost to, and he was actually the reason why you lost that match. I think I'm about to talk about here.
Yep.
The Nemesis, James Taylor. I mean, so you and Rage, what made it where you guys were like oil and vinegar, and basically you guys were kind of like in each other's way throughout most of 2023?
Well, the story with me and Rage goes back a long time.
It goes back to Knockout days, if I'm not mistaken.
It goes back to Knockout Wrestling, because for people who don't know, Knockout Wrestling was my show. I ran the entire show, and I abused power a little bit. I can't lie. I screwed over Rage more times than I screwed anybody. He was the Resurrection World or the KOW World Champion.
Yes, correct.
For the first time, and not even 2 weeks later, I screwed him out of it to help my own agenda, and it just kept happening over and over. And ever since that first time, me and him have never seen eye to eye. And then whenever Rage won that Resurrection World title, he it's like a switch flipped. He wasn't doing everything for the fans anymore. He wasn't fighting for everything he used to. And it's like me and him kind of switched sides a little bit. And I didn't like it because the Rage that I knew only did the right thing. It, Even when I tried to do the right thing, he still didn't like me. He still didn't trust me because of the past, and I can't fault him for it. But I don't think me and Rage will ever be able to get along. But he's definitely one of my best rivals that I've ever had.
But why did you try to screw him so much? And then when he was always good, he kind of had this change, and then you changed. And why though? Why was it that you and him just didn't get along throughout these years?
Well, hindsight, looking back now, I can understand. I saw all the talent in Rage because that is a very talented young man.
Absolutely. We watched him, and he's going to be in the ring with Drake Golddragon coming up on the 17th of February. And that's going to be those guys in a cage. I mean,
Me and Rage is one of the most talented men I've ever met in my life. And I saw
he's got
that
a great look. I mean, if you look at
Yes,
him, there's a lot of people in Resurrection that have a certain look, but he's a guy you look at, and it's almost in baseball they use a term, a five-tool player. If you were to use that same term in wrestling, I think King Rage would be our example.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's always been there. And I think back then when I didn't see the talent in myself, I saw it in him, and it was a lot of jealousy. So I was doing everything in my power to cut the brakes on him, take his legs out, and not let him make any other chances known that he was the better wrestler back then. And fast forward to 2023, it wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was about me proving to myself that I can beat Rage, because for the past 2 years I haven't been able to. He's beat me every time we've stepped in the ring. But come what was supposed to happen to Retribution was I was supposed to get my shot. And we were working in the works of having that be the first ever live steel cage match. And then Adrian Prince came around, and he ended everything.
So in a lot of ways, you should really have not so much angst or regrets with Rage, but more about Adrian Prince. And I go back to him because he's the world champion now. I mean, you got to be really like livid right now that this man who took away your opportunity to beat a man you've been chasing for 2 years to finally prove that you could beat, takes that away from you, takes away your career, and then once again interferes in your match against Dustin Alexander, another man that you've been forever linked in your career. And now on top of it, Adrian Prince defeats another man that you've also been linked with and maybe gave you your confidence and most success here in Resurrection in the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady. And Adrian Prince is the world champion. That's got to make you like so livid. And it's got to make you to the point that if you could do anything to get your hands on him or help anybody to get their hands on him to kind of take away what he's done, because he took away everything that you loved.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. If I had the chance right now to go to Resurrection and take that title away from him, I would in a heartbeat, because when he ended my career, he didn't do it by himself. He had Drake Golddragon and Malibu helping him. And if it wasn't for them, I would still be in Resurrection. But the one thing that Adrian Prince has always needed was help. And now going into lockdown, it's going to be interesting because he's fighting Ronnie Brady in a steel cage. So he won't be able to have that help.
Well, what do you think about that, though? What do you? And we have Rage here. I'm going to come back to people. I know there's a lot of comments. We're here with Cameron Cage, recently, I guess you could say, retired star here, though we saw him in the ring at Elevation's last Resurrection Wrestling show. You can watch that show on YouTube at Resurrection Wrestling. And if you're here also, I'm on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. We're celebrating our 5-year anniversary today of Sportswire Radio's early inceptions back on January the 25th, 2019. We're here live with Cameron Cage. But, obviously you can't go out there and compete, quote unquote. But there is a new assistant general manager in Steven Silvestri. He's been
There
here
is.
twice. And do you, or will you consider making your case to him about maybe if there was a way to come back in the ring?
I have thought about it. Ever since I saw that there is a new assistant general manager, it's opened a lot of doors for a lot of different things. And I feel like with it being Steven, me and him were always pretty close. I feel like if there ever was a time where I just felt like I had to come back, I feel like he'd be the one to open the door.
But you also have to know that there's a lot of clouds hanging over your career. I mean, right now you've got a man that is the world champion who ended your career. You now see that he's also taken out Dustin Alexander. Look at what the Beast Academy did to him. I mean, they kidnapped him. I mean, look about that. I mean, Dustin Alexander, who knows what's going to happen with him? Is he alive right now? I mean, we really don't know. I mean, all the people that were important to you, and even Rage himself. Listen, he was up there in a match with the Outlaw Gunnar Morgan, and the Outlaw Gunnar Morgan pinned Rage. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, everybody that you're linked to in some way, they've either fell or are in the crosshairs of the Beast Academy, and that's got to drive you wild.
It does. Ever since the Beast Academy has came up and actually started, they have been on a hot streak. They're taking out everyone on Resurrection. But Adrian Prince has a bad history behind him, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before Gunnar Morgan notices that.
You think?
Because, in my opinion, Gunnar Morgan has a lot of potential. Gunnar Morgan, right now, I feel like is being used by Adrian Prince, because Adrian Prince wants the muscle.
Can't blame him though.
Oh no, you can't blame him at all. It's a smart strategy, but I feel like eventually Gunnar Morgan's going to realize that Adrian Prince isn't there to help him further his career. Adrian Prince has Gunnar Morgan there for Gunnar to further his own career.
Let me ask you a question, and let's go back to Rage and Gold Dragon. I mean, what do you think happens there? Gold Dragon's got the belt, but Rage has probably had more success by a long shot in their careers. Rage has, I guess you'd say, a little more momentum, but Gold Dragon has the belt. What do you think happens there?
That one is a hard one to figure out, because Drake's been on a roll. Drake has had that national title since Deadly Collision, if I'm not mistaken. Yep.
But he's struggled of late in matches, though. He's got the belt, but he's struggled of late.
He's gotten beat by Roddy Alpha quite a few times. I've noticed.
Roddy Alpha is the guy everybody's talking about right now in the locker room. Everybody, the talk of Resurrection is Roddy Alpha is a guy that, he's probably going to be a champion here in a few months if the way things are going continue.
I feel like that, but I feel Rage does have a chance, because with it being a steel cage, Gold Dragon can't go running around. He can't escape, but that also puts a hinder on Rage too, because Rage has a habit of liking to jump over the rope.
Yes, good point.
In a lot of his matches, and that's automatically cut out.
And let me ask you another question. In going back to the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady, although we saw him, it was good to see him. I'm sure we're going to see him in Resurrection Wrestling month before that match on the 17th. And I don't know why we haven't spoken to Ronnie Brady yet, but I'm sure we'll certainly get that fixed. But what kind of condition do you think he would be in? Because Adrian Prince, even after the match where he won the title off him, did a number with them. And we saw guys had to carry him out. And even still, he was getting a beating that he hasn't seen in a long time, the way he got beat up. I mean, what condition do you think Ronnie Brady would be in 3 weeks from Saturday?
Oh, it wouldn't be the best. It definitely
Obviously, that's a good point. Yeah, you think.
Because Adrian Prince is a very aggressive man. And it was me who was one of the guys who had to help Ronnie out of the ring, because he couldn't stand.
Yep.
So I feel like 3 weeks away, that leg's still going to be bothering him, and Adrian Prince is going to go after that leg. That is the man who, if he sees something he can exploit, he is going right after it, and he's not going to stop until he takes it out completely.
Now, I'm sure you haven't asked Ronnie about his condition. You haven't. So, I mean, nobody knows what his condition is. I had brought this up last week in the segment with Dustin. If you're Ronnie Brady, I mean, maybe you should just not cash in the rematch clause right away. Maybe you should wait. What do you say on that?
I feel like that'd be the smartest way to go. Honestly, give it.
Because I think Taylor said it best, that I think Ronnie Brady's toast. To come back on short notice after getting hurt the way he did last week, we're only talking about 3 weeks between now and lockdown. I mean, Ronnie Brady has not seen or had that kind of beating the way he got beat up by the Beast Academy, and especially Prince and Morgan, in I don't know how long. I mean, listen, I mean, Ronnie Brady's not controversy. He's not Mac 10. He's not Mikey Anarchy. I mean, those guys get beat up every 2 seconds. They're fine with it. But the way he got beat up, the West Memphis kid Ronnie Brady, from, again, Morgan and Prince, if I'm him, maybe I would reevaluate my plans.
I would, if I was Ronnie Brady, I would definitely not be trying to cash in that rematch clause anytime soon, especially with it being inside of a cage, where Adrian Prince is going to use everything around him to take every part of
the condition. If you're not 100% going into a cage match, I would certainly say it's more than almost a handicap match. Ronnie Brady, certainly, I mean, we'll try to talk with him before that. We'll have to see. I have a lot more comments before we get to the end of the show, and I want to get to some people because people still want to talk, and I want to let them talk. Listen, Cam, I like you, kid, but trust me when I say this. It will be an honor to bring you out of retirement just to send your ass back on a stretcher and a breathing tube.
Hey, man, you'll have to kill me.
Well, you know what? Apparently, Mr. Black says he's shooting to be in Resurrection in August. So I guess we'll see if you're a man of your word. Stay tuned.
I guess we will.
Stay tuned. And Jacoby says that'll be interesting. Would love to have a mind like Omen Black in the locker room. By the way, Omen has traveled. Here's a number of places he's traveled to. Ready for this? ROEW. XCW, where within an inch of the tag team champions' lives, including our shirt here from the first real wrestler, our third member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Justin Parsley's lives. He's been in WCE. He's conquered that company. Apparently, they're talking about him overseas. IMF, his promotion, done wonders in that promotion, in that place. There are other companies that they don't even want him in the ring because of how dangerous and how deadly he's in the ring. The fact is, Omen Black, what he's done in a short amount of time, he might be one of the most impressive people that's going around in this sport. And if he's coming to Resurrection, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm a fan of myself too, Jacoby. I'll take you under my wing and make you half as good as me. I still want to see Rage and Cameron Cage in a steel cage match. And I think a lot of people see this. You have a lot of unfinished business. What I learned tonight is that you have a lot of unfinished business. And I feel like that the book is not closed on your career. I'm just saying. Winning the Rumble is every superstar's dream to either get a championship opportunity to a main event WrestleMania, and it's emotional win too. Well, yeah, it's definitely a dream. And thank you, Ethan, for that. We are in Resurrection Wrestling. No, WWE's Rumble is Saturday, but thank you. I appreciate that. And we're gonna definitely get you on an interview. Message me. I think we just followed each other on Instagram the other day. So when we're off the air in a half an hour, so I will definitely message you and we'll get you on before the 17th. And I definitely agree with you on that. He says, though, big plans for King in the Ring. Prince has never beat me, but he's got Gold Dragon first. You got Gold Dragon on the 17th.
Yeah, you got to keep your priorities, man.
That's a good point. Good point. Beast Academy sucks. Gunnar Morgan can do way more without Adrian Prince. Maybe. Also, all right, I'll let you. It's an okay question. I have a question for you. Were you nervous when you had your first injury in wrestling, or did you knew you were going to recover? He put new, but I'm going to put the K before.
Well, I've never really had a serious injury in wrestling. The most injury that I had was the week before I lost my career. Adrian Prince tried to take my arm out, and the very next week I was up right back at it. But I've been fortunate enough. I haven't ever broken a limb in wrestling. I haven't ever. I mean, I've cut my own head open, but other than that,
Well, like I said, I just watched Jimmy Controversy in Hardcore, and Jimmy Controversy put a syringe of Hardcore's lip.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it looked interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'd want a syringe up my lip, although I'm sure listeners and people that watch Sportswire at this point, because of some of the things I've said the last month, probably would like to see that happen to me. But I personally am not hoping that happens to me anytime soon. But then again, Hardcore has had a lot worse. They stapled money to his head, not in Jimmy's match, but a prior match with Jimmy. They put staples to their head. I mean, they had, it looked like haystacks go on Jimmy Controversy through his head. I mean, there was a lot of other things there, but we're going to move on from that. But Ethan had a question at the beginning of the show I want to get to before I get to a few other things before we sign off. If you had a favorite match in your career, what was it?
Favorite match? Well, honestly, I've gone back and forth with it a lot. I've got two.
Okay, give it to me.
One of them was my match with Adrian Prince at Against All Odds, when we combined the KOW and Resurrection Hardcore Championships. And my second was probably, I think it was episode 3 of Resurrection. We were still on the trampoline, but it was my first match with Dustin in Resurrection. Was probably by far my favorite.
Do you not have, in a way, any feeling that you're getting passed by? Because look at Resurrection, right? Resurrection, how far they've come. That was a company that started out kind of like a lot of other companies in the yard without. And now we see Resurrection having, again, like I stated, two of the bigger stars in the sport right now. I mean, Mikey Anarchy and Jimmy Controversy work figuratively and literally for two of the biggest promotions in this sport. And Jimmy Controversy wrestled, some guy named Tommy Dreamer, who probably should be a WWE Hall of Famer. And who the heck knows? Maybe he gets the call this year because it's in Philadelphia. My point is, look at where Resurrection was to where it is now. And you're not an active wrestler at the moment. Do you feel like you might get passed by?
I've had thoughts about that. I have, because they have been getting on to some bigger and better things since I've left.
I mean, look at the last couple of months. I mean, it all started working with TBW, right? And they've worked with TBW, which has been a great partnership. I think everybody's been very happy with it. We've had a lot of the TBW guys here on Sportswire. Titans talked about it. Josh Allen has talked about it. Jacob Young's talked about it. A lot of guys from TBW have talked about it. Past guys in the company have talked about it. And it's a great partnership. And it's helped them in both companies in so many ways. And now we see the big guys coming here, the big hitters, and Anarchy and Controversy, Mac 10s and Carnage Cup. And, do you feel like, though, that, you're not active anymore, you could be passed by it all?
I have thought that a lot, because there for a long time, I felt like I was one of the guys on Resurrection. I was one of the names that got brought up the most. Still am, based on the stuff that I've seen. Adrian Prince can't keep my name out of his mouth. But there for a long time I did, but I've gotten to the point now. I know where my spot was in Resurrection. I know where it still could be if I ended up going back. And I know if and when Resurrection ends up doing a Hall of Fame, I have a really good feeling that my name is going to be one of the first.
Well, it's funny you said that. Because you mentioned Resurrection may have a Hall of Fame. Now, as far as I know, I don't think Resurrection has a Hall of Fame yet. But Sportswire has a Hall of Fame. And apparently, again, I have to bring him up because he's going into our Hall of Fame real soon. The Nemesis James Taylor. I mean, you got to feel like you'd love to wrestle him at some point. I mean, once again, because that was a match you had won. And you blocked his stunners time and time again. And then it looked like you had him. And then Rage came in. And all of a sudden you turn around. And there's the Nemesis James Taylor with that stunner. And it was 1, 2, 3. I mean, speaking of Hall of Famers, I mean, you got to have some also unfinished business with the Nemesis James Taylor, who's also a free agent. I mean, listen, maybe we could have a match. You know what? You wrestle James Taylor, you beat him. Maybe you're in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. People have asked us here, when are we going to sponsor matches on Sportswire? When are we going to sponsor belts? You know what? Maybe we could go into that business real soon, because you know what? James Taylor's a free agent. You're a free agent technically. Who knows? Maybe you beat him in that match. Maybe that'll put you in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Make the ante up a little bit. I mean, what do you think on all those different things I just said in the Nemesis James Taylor?
Hey, man, I would love to get in the ring with James Taylor again. That night that we got in the ring, that was a dream match for me.
What a following he has. I mean, you talk about the Nemesis James Taylor, and you talk about all those followers on YouTube and TikTok, those Stone Cold videos, those Triple H videos, those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figurines, the Nemesis sessions. I mean, James Taylor's another name. You mentioned his name, and all of a sudden you could hear that Stone Cold voice and that James Taylor, and he comes down the ring, and he doesn't care, and he just shows up, and he's another lightning rod in this sport. Whether you love him or hate him, I mean, you and Taylor, I mean, there's eyeballs.
Oh, yeah. I have more respect for James Taylor than I do for a lot of people in the backyard wrestling community.
Me too.
James Taylor was one of the most open people I've met. Like, yes. We were talking through our match, and he was open to anything. Anything that he said, I was cool with. Everything that I said, he was more than excited for. Yes, there is a lot of unfinished business there, because I feel like if we got a round 2 with me and James Taylor with no Rage involved, no Adrian Prince either, I feel like me and him could have went a very different way than it did.
I think the way that match was going, and rewatching that match, because I was like, wait a minute, I forgot you wrestled James Taylor before we went on the air. I was like, wait a minute, you wrestled James Taylor. I forgot about that, because I actually remember vividly speaking with James Taylor on the phone about going to Resurrection, how much he loved it. And I was like, oh, great, holy shnikey, you actually wrestled him. So we had to bring that up. And, maybe it should be a no DQ match next time, no interference. Just may the best man win, and that would be a match I think a lot of people would love to see. Add that to the list of matches that we'd like to see on Sportswire. And like I said, I mean, you win, you get in the Sportswire Radio Hall. I'll probably induct you anyway because I like you. But I mean, at this point, why not?
Yeah, I'd love to have another match with James Taylor, and it would be an honor to be in the Hall of Fame. But
I would love to have you. I mean, I would love to have you, apparently. I mean, if you want to be in the Hall of Fame, I mean, you have some interesting accomplishments. I mean, as I said today in my soliloquy when I introduced James Barris into a Hall of Fame, I mean, to me, the Hall of Fame is somebody that did things that, made the lives of others around them Hall of Fame, like in their accomplishments in the ring, I think also Hall of Fame like. So maybe you should come back on Sportswire, and maybe we should induct you in the Hall of Fame sometime next month.
I'm always down. If there's any time you need somebody to hop on here, I will. I don't mind.
Well, you know what? Maybe I think I might want to induct you in the Hall of Fame. I think that after what James Taylor's going to hear this, he's going to be back on Sportswire, and he's on. We're supposed to be on this Sunday. We're actually going to push him back 1 week because I have somebody else to come on here. But I have more comments here, and I want to get to them before we could close out the show. Also, good one here. If you had the opportunity right now to get back in the ring, how fast would you take it, and who would you want to be up against?
I'd take it in a heartbeat, easily in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
There's a big list, and a lot of it is a lot of the stuff that we've talked about. I have a lot of unfinished business, but if there's anyone that I feel like I'd prove to myself to get in the ring with, I think I need another match with Neff. I think me and Neff have had some wars back in the day.
I've been knocked out, a lot of them, yep.
I feel like me and him have always tore the house down. If anyone I'd want to start back up with, it would be Neff.
And Neff's a man that it looks like his days in Resurrection are kind of sunsetting, you might want to say. Kind of looks like going off to the sunset. It looked like we were going to see maybe some things, but it remains to be seen, I suppose. I mean, that would be interesting. I guess we'll have to stay tuned. We'll definitely find out maybe sometime. Who knows? Who knows what the future brings? D'Angelo LaFlame certainly had a lot to say about Neff. I'm sure that Mr. Flame will certainly be back. He's here on the 18th, right after the show, and I'm going to talk with him absolutely about all of that. Also, I don't know who this person is, but I say thank you for. It's from on Twitch. I have a Twitch account now, so I don't know who you are, but thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And she asked Cameron, "Can you burp on command?" I don't.
No, I cannot.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I agree. I love James Taylor. He's always been one of my favorites on Sportswire. Really straight shooter, down to earth. Really speaks his mind. Definitely somebody that fits right into Sportswire Radio and why we've been successful as we've been these 5 years. So I agree with you. I have a ton of respect for him. The man is a hard worker and he's a good man. A lot of people you can say a lot of different things about, but James Taylor is a good man. Even though we'd love for Cameron Cage to get back in the ring, I think he honestly accomplished pretty much everything he wanted to do. I don't think I got that impression at all tonight.
Oh no, man.
I totally disagree with you on Ethan. Cameron Cage has not accomplished everything he's wanted to do, and I think he's far from done. That's what I'm saying. You can, guys.
I still got one title that I haven't won yet in Resurrection. So
I think, listen, we rattled off 4 different names that you still have unfinished business to. So I think there's a lot left in the tank. I don't know if it's going to be today, next month, next year, but listen, we've seen guys come back time and time again. Why not you? Thank you, though, for viewing the stream. I appreciate that very much. And Ethan says, for now, okay, yep, you got the comment. Want to say hello to my buddy Skulls, the Soul Hunter from California. How you doing? He's making new wrestling cards. Thank you very much. We will certainly talk about that when you come back on the show. And he will be back here in March to be inducted into our Hall of Fame. Great stuff there. We are here with Cameron Cage for a few more minutes. Cameron, by the way, recently returned to the ring for a brief appearance in Resurrection Wrestling's latest show, Elevation. If you'd like to actually follow Cameron Cage, very simple, straight to the point. Check him out on Instagram, CamCage420. Very simple. CamCage420. That's CamCage420. Only on Instagram. He's like hardcore. Hardcore just has Instagram. He has just Instagram also. So there's no TikTok. There's no YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, whatever it might be. Check him out only on Instagram, CamCage420. Simple, straight to the point. That's why you want to follow this man, because something tells me here there is unfinished business. And if you want to follow Resurrection Wrestling on a number of different ways before we sign off for the evening, Resurrection Pro Wrestling on Instagram. Also, YouTube and TikTok, Resurrection Wrestling. Resurrection Wrestling's TikTok page where you can actually watch Lockdown on February the 17th, like me in New York. If you got nothing to do, no plan, that's going to be your plan to watch the show. Also, Resurrection Pro Wrestling's Patreon page is where you can find out more information on new shows. Steven Silvestri has a show coming up. There's also going to be some other things. Redbubble.com for merchandise is where you can get your shirts. You can get your Resurrection shirts. You can get any of your favorite
superstars shirt too.
You better make sure you do that, because that's going to put some more eyeballs to Cameron Cage and make sure that he comes back to Sportswire and takes his place into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Also, yes, thank you. I appreciate that very much. So before I get to closing thoughts, and I'm going to leave your Instagram here for a few minutes so people can go follow and give you a like and everything else in between. Is there anything else that you'd want to say to your fans, people you've worked with in Knockout, Resurrection, or anybody else that's hearing of you for the first time?
The only thing that I can really think to say is I'm not done yet. I'm far from it. It right now, with Adrian Prince ending my career, it's just a bump in the road. I will be back, whether it's in Resurrection, whether I might go to TBW.
Oh, now
where I'm going to show up.
Now, like I said, TBW was just featured in Barstool a couple of days ago. I mean, TBW is like the mothership. I mean, When you mention TBW, listen, I interview a lot of British wrestlers, and people say, even on the other side of the world, that they're TBW fans. TBW, I think alone in the last 2 months, just gained 600 subscribers on YouTube. TBW's following is when I first started covering TBW, I think they were 4,700 subscribers. Alone in the last 10 months, they're at 6,500. You go to TBW, I mean, I mean, that would be in that environment. The Woo Man, the Nature Boy Gage Flair, the Prophet Jay Wild. You got Russell Cooper, the champion there. Hollywood Titan. You certainly got your things you said about him. You got the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, Manny Cobra's back. There's the Party Killer, Fat Asian. You got Jacob Young, who knows what Jacob Young thinks. There's a lot of big names there in TBW. Mix it up with that I think a lot of people would love to see. You know what? That might be an interesting landing spot for you. TBW. We know Resurrection and TBW have had a great relationship, and a lot of guys have mixed it up. They listened to what Drake Golddragon did there in TBW. D'Angelo LaFlame was successful there. A lot of guys have mixed it up in TBW. That would be a real intriguing spot there for you. You know what? Never say never by a long shot. Ladies and gentlemen, this was one for the ages tonight. What a day we had on Sportswire Radio. Our 5-year anniversary kicked things off with James Barris to be inducted as our 24th person to the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. We closed things out with Cameron Cage, a man who said a lot more than maybe people anticipated, and he told us tonight that he's not done. When it comes to the likes of King Rage or the wild beast Adrian Prince, our reigning defending Resurrection Wrestling World Champion, the Machine Dustin Alexander, who knows? James Taylor, the Nemesis? Stay tuned. Anybody, even in TBW, Hollywood Titan? I don't know. But I know one thing. Cameron Cage has got a lot of scores to settle with a number of different people. It could be anybody. Like I said, King Rage, James Taylor, Hollywood Titan. Could be Wild Beast, Adrian Prince, Gunnar Morgan. Could be any of those names, and even names we haven't even spoke about with in many months, and even other names like a hardcore god, Omen Black, who could be coming to Resurrection Wrestling. That's why you want to support Resurrection Wrestling and Cameron Cage and all these platforms. Before closing thoughts here, one more time. It is Resurrection Month starting next Thursday, so on all Sportswire Radio platforms, that's Instagram, YouTube, that's Facebook, that's Twitter, sportswireradio.org. That's Threads. That's also on Tumblr. That's our home website. Everything else in between. It is Resurrection Wrestling Month. So you have that there. My logo here. Thank you, Mr. TBK. TBK, if you are going to have a podcast coming up, you can definitely put him on. And you know what? I'm agreeing with Taylor. I'm going to get you on to the Hall of Fame sometime in the end of the month in February. We're going to book a date, and I'm going to get you in the Hall of Fame. We're going to definitely talk about that off the air. But, yes, I'm going to add you into the Hall of Fame because you got a story. The war stories that you have definitely make it worth it. And who knows? You and James Taylor could be Hall of Famer versus Hall of Famer. That could be our way to book a Sportswire Radio match somewhere. So I'm sure some promoter might want to take us up on that offer. But all that aside, I want to give you the floor now, my friend. I want to give you the opportunity to have any closing thoughts, anything else you want to plug, share, or say. And the floor is yours. This is definitely going to be the first of many times you come on the platform. And this was a lot of fun. And fire away.
Well, yeah, this was it was a lot of fun. And thank you for having me on here. It was an honor. I might not be a part of Resurrection, but still go follow all of them on everything on YouTube. Buy something from the Redbubble store. Go on the Patreon, all that. I might not be
for $1 a month. The basic features $1 a month. That's it. $1.
It's nothing. It's cheaper than Netflix.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Because I heard the premium plan now is $36, and come January of next year, that's gonna go up a lot more.
Oh yeah,
Resurrection's offering you far more than what you're gonna be getting on Netflix when that other company with 3 initials that starts with a W is gonna go over there, when you won't be able to watch them on your cable. So I can assure you, Resurrection, you want to support Redbubble store, Patreon store, also TBW, support them. Support everybody out there that makes all wrestling matters. Because I always say it here on Sportswire Radio, it's all wrestling that matters. It's not just WWE, it's not just AEW, it's not just MLW Impact, it's the underground, it's the semi-pro, it's the backyard, it's independent, whatever it might be. You want to support places like TBW, the IMF, XCW, ROEW, WCE, DBW, VTW, Legendary Backyard Wrestling, Resurrection Wrestling. You want to support all of these awesome companies because they are the reasons why wrestling matters. These are the reasons why wrestling is what it is today. These are the companies where it all starts. It all has to start somewhere, right? But it's companies like Resurrection, wrestling companies like TBW, wrestling companies like the IMF, wrestling companies like XCW and DBW and ROEW and VTW and Amplified Wrestling, Enterprise Wrestling, Superstar Wrestling, SSW, all these great companies that are what wrestling is all about. So you want to support all the great companies that come onto Sportswire Radio, especially Resurrection, and especially follow Cameron Cage on Instagram at CamCage420. My friend, it's been an absolute honor. I could not think of a better person to have come on here to continue our 5-year festivities here on Sportswire Radio. I look forward to inducting you into our Hall of Fame toward the end of February next month. And thank you for all that you do. And again, I'm going to say it, never say never. It seems like you've got a lot of unfinished business and a lot of people that have been mentioned on Sportswire Radio. Definitely you're going to be coming for. And I think King Rage, I'm going to be asking a lot about you to him very, very soon, especially before the 17th of February.
Awesome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. And joined us tonight was Cameron Cage, who you just saw at Resurrection Wrestling's last Elevation show, where he came back as a surprise against the Machine, Dustin Alexander. And unfortunately, we didn't get a winner in that match because the man that ended his career, the Wild Beast Adrian Prince, along with Gunnar Morgan, the Outlaw, came out to disrupt the match, which led to the Wild Beast Adrian Prince becoming our brand new Resurrection Wrestling World Champion. But I learned one thing, that certainly Mr. Cage is definitely going to be a rage against the Machine, and he's certainly going to let out his rage in a cage somewhere, someday, and it could be toward the Wild Beast Adrian Prince, maybe King Rage himself. If he gets done with Drake Golddragon, certainly James Taylor, looking at you, Dustin Alexander, Atomic Titan, Hollywood Titan even, whatever else you want to call him. He's definitely got a list. He's definitely coming for people, and I know one thing, the future is looking very bright for this young man regardless. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, thank you for joining us. We'll continue our 5-year festivities on Sportswire Radio tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with the Gentleman Thug Ronnie Thatcher of Carnage Championship Wrestling. Will give us one more preview of CCW's Fighter Strike 3. But until then, be square, be safe, whatever you might do. But I know one thing, the future is bright. The best is yet to come. Until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire. Wrestling matters. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'll see everybody tomorrow.